Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Carrie Roldan Show, where we spend 30 minutes or so having conversations that matter to the entrepreneur's body, mind, and business. I am so excited. This is the very first time, for those of you who are watching on Facebook Live or on a Facebook recording or on YouTube, this is the very first time in all the years I've done the Carrie Roldan Show, I've had my guest here live with me. So I am so excited to introduce Emma Jeffery to you guys today. I've known Emma for now 12 years,
I'd say so.
Which is freaking crazy. And I can't wait to tell you guys her story. But Emma's my real friend, my real life. Like, we are not so much business BFFs as we are just BFFs, actual BFFs. We go running every Tuesday. And I wanted to have her on the show because, as you're going to hear when I read her bio in just a minute, she's an unlikely entrepreneur who has done a lot of things right. And I wanted her to share her story with you. So I wrote a little intro. Let me give it to you so it sounds super official. Emma Jeffery considers herself an unlikely entrepreneur. She didn't set out to have a business or be an influencer. She merely used her talents and followed her curiosity. But today, my friend Emma is one of the most influential women in the craft industry. And I know she's like blushing when I say that. Her first blog, Hello Beautiful, got her noticed by some big players in the craft world. And what started out as a hobby turned into a position as an influencer with Fiskars, which if you're a crafter, you know Fiskars, or as Emma says, because she has a British accent, Fiskars. And a side hustle on Instagram and Amazon. So I can't wait for you guys to hear her story, but I'm going to move this document out of the way. And now I can see both of us on the screen. So, hey, Emma,
Hey,
welcome.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
It's totally good to have you. And we're both a little bit awkward today because we're like, do we look at the camera? Do we look at each other? So we'll just see what happens. But, and I see we actually do have some viewers. Sorry, we were a little back. Oh, we should all mention my dogs are in the background, so get that out of the way, take a look, and we'll get started. So Emma,
it's very distracting. They're so cute.
I know they are distracting, but if you're listening to the podcast, imagine my really cute dogs.
Yeah.
So Emma, let's start at the beginning. I want you to tell about your story. Start with when you came to the United States.
Okay.
And I'll interrupt you as I see fit.
Okay. So it was almost 14 years ago, we came here, my husband and I, and a little tiny baby who was about 2 months old. And we came for 2 years. That's what we planned on. We owned a house in England and our life was set up there, but we thought, we'll go to America for 2 years. Didn't have a particular desire to come here, I have to say. But I was like, well, it's California and the weather's better than England, so we'll come. And we didn't realize how much we would love it. That was almost 14 years ago. Just ended up staying. That little baby is now almost 14. And we had another child while we lived here as well. So we actually have an American. And we're kind of settled. We're here now to stay, I think. You know, who knows? Never say never. But we came with my husband's job. So we moved for his job. I gave up my work. I was teaching in England. It was actually perfect timing because I had a baby. I wasn't going to work immediately after having him anyway. So we moved here and the timing was just right.
So I think I want to start with that because it takes a particular kind of person to just up and move with the tiny baby to a whole new country where you don't know anybody. So what was that yes like for you?
My husband and I had always traveled a lot. And I think part of that yes was, we have a baby and we can still do it. Like, we're not going to let having a baby stop us from pursuing those things that we always did before. It just felt right. He was, looking back on it now, I don't think I appreciated it at the time, but he was a really easy baby. Like, he just slept, he was happy. I was a first time mum, so I was super neurotical, but he was like easy and fine. So, it was just easy.
And you weren't, I think I would be ready to do something at this stage in my life now in my 40s. I think I would be ready to just up and move to England. I don't know if I could have, with a tiny baby, just up and move all the halfway across the world, not near my parents or any kind of support system. So that's sort of what I'm asking. Like, have you just always been an adventurous kind of person? Have you always just said yes to what shows up?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I've never thought about it. Yeah, I think if it's something that I want to do, yeah. You don't realize how bad the weather is in England. California, it wasn't that difficult to say yes. No, I don't know. I like to make the most of opportunities, and it just felt right. My husband was like totally up for it. I was up for it. It felt like the right time, and you're right, we didn't have any support when we moved here, but as you know, it wasn't long before I met like my group of mum friends, and you were one of them, and so we quickly established ourselves here, I would say.
Yeah, this is something, you guys, I find so interesting. So our kids went to the same preschool. I met Emma one time before our kids went to preschool together at some sort of mom function, because her second child is the same age as my second child. So our first two of our children are the same age as each other. And then I had a third. So I met Emma one time at a mom's function. And the only reason I even remembered her is because of the accent. And then another year or so went by and our kids were in the same preschool. But I find it so interesting, retrospect now. So all of us moms at that preschool would, our little kids would have class together. It was a co-op preschool, so you had to volunteer in the classroom. And then oftentimes afterwards, we would sit out and picnic after school was over and talk about, what the things we wanted to happen in our lives, or, if only just sort of fantasize about what our lives could be like or what we wanted to build. Emma was not one dreaming about her entrepreneurial enterprises, but another friend was like dying to be an author. Somebody else like wanted to start a yoga empire. I had all these friends who we would literally sit around with our toddlers in a picnic blanket talking about what we wanted to create in the world. And I don't think if any of us knew that it was going to take this long.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's so cool that group of mom friends, we've become what I call teammates on the entrepreneurial journey. Like, we've been each other's teammates just in mom support, in like being in the mom struggle together. But it's so cool to watch everybody's dreams really coming into existence. So back to your dream.
Yes.
You at that time didn't have a green card.
Correct. And
couldn't get a job, right? Your husband was here on a work visa.
So the plan was that I wasn't going to work anyway because I had a baby. He was working. He had a visa and was working. And I sort of realized I needed something to do.
Been there.
He was an easy baby. I didn't actually have that much to do. And so sort of establishing my life here. And I think I'd always been really, really interested in making things. Like, as a young child, I really remember very often, like probably weekly, having this like burning desire to make something. And the only way that I could like release that was by actually doing it. I'd sit and plan it all in my head, and I like talking about it with everybody. But the only way to have that like cathartic release was actually to make it or do it, whatever it was. So I bought a sewing machine, like a really cheap sewing machine. And I just taught myself to sew some things. I wasn't very good at it, actually. When I look back on some of the things I made, they were quite bad. And I like did some crocheting, and I remember I was like crocheting some like little baby shoes, but I had to do like eight shoes so that I could find a matching pair that were about the same size. And then really, after the birth of my second child was when I like really, really needed to have something like some release where I really needed to do that kind of thing. But yeah, so basically I just had a hobby. I didn't have a blog at that point, but I just started making things.
Well, I remember so this preschool had a craft fair. Yeah. And nothing, I'm going to choke on my words here. Nothing sounds worse to me than having to make crafts for a craft fair. And I remember the idea of that like seemed so easy to you. It lit you up. I remember this must have been after Tegan was born. Tegan is baby number 2. Because I remember you were like starting to make your own clothes. Yeah. She made this really cool sweatshirt that had like buttons on the side. She was like high fashion. And she was making it herself, which I thought was amazing.
And you only think that is amazing because you're not a crafter. Like it was,
yeah.
It's not that amazing.
Although the thing is, I remember our kids' teacher left, and you did a felt, like a little felt thing for the teacher. And I remember you were a little bit embarrassed by it, and all of us were like, "Oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing ever." So that was, I think, right before you started your craft blog. So what was it that made you go from, okay, I'm just going to, I'm making myself a sweatshirt, I'm making my kids some clothes, to like, no, I'm going to be a maker. I'm going to be someone who makes things and does something about it.
Well, I think so alongside making stuff, I've always had this big need to write, to just put pen to paper, or like nowadays typing. And I think that both of those things just happen to combine at the same time. So my daughter, you know all of this, but my second child was born with congenital heart defect, and she spent a lot of time in and out of hospital, and it was a really stressful time of our lives, and that outlet just kind of like exploded for me. I just needed something to it's kind of like
to nurture yourself.
So the writing and the making just came together, and it was when blogs, like, I remember not even knowing what a blog was at the beginning, and thinking, well, how do I do that? Like, what, like if I needed to write something, like how would I, it's like a diary. Okay, I could do that. And I think just the blog at the time they were new, and it was, easy to get noticed because there weren't as many as there are now. My photography was terrible. The things I was making, they were okay. But I was inspired by not being like, sort of a folk grandma type crafter, which is kind of, it has its place, but more like a maker, like more of a modern maker. So anyway, those just the timing just combined. It just happened at the right time.
Well, I have to say I'm amazed, because I'm remembering back to this time, you guys. Emma has left out a really important part of her story, which was her husband's job that kept them here. Right, that kept them in the United States, kept you on a visa, kept Tegan, the second daughter, with all of her hospital visits and stuff here, and her current doctors, had him traveling to China for like at least 10 days out of the month. So Emma was here in the United States with 2 small children, one of whom anybody who has 2 small children knows what it's crazy making. One of whom had frequent doctor's visits and a couple of major surgeries, and no parents to send her children to. Like, no, I'm imagining that when you put your kids to bed, crafting or working on your blog was just like feed yourself time, soul time.
Yeah, it was.
And I remember you used to even host craft nights at that time. I never went.
Did you? You never came.
Not a craft.
It wasn't always crafting, but we called them craft nights.
Yeah, there was a lot of wine, I think, at craft night.
Yeah, it was.
I went to one, and I don't drink or craft, so I missed the boat on that. Okay, so you started a blog, and I remember early on, this is the thing that I think is amazing, is during that time, I was like desperate to be noticed. I was like trying to figure out how to do this work from home, online business. How am I going to make something of myself and get people to notice me? Like, I had all this sort of proving, forceful energy behind what I was trying to create in the world. And Emma was like, I don't know, whatever. And yet you were quickly building a following. You were getting partnerships. You were getting like what I considered was a ton of views on your blog during that time. So how did that evolve into, what was the progression that got you to where you are now with Fiskars?
Okay, so as you mentioned at the beginning, I didn't have a green card because we were only supposed to be here temporarily for 2 years. So our daughter was born. We realized we weren't going to be able to leave, or we chose to stay here for the benefit of her health and the continuity of her doctors. So my husband's company at the time applied for green cards on our behalf. About a week before the green card arrived in the mail, I saw it was just like it was online, and it was on a sewing website that I frequented like all the time. It was like patterns and inspiration. Anyway, there was a call for a designer for Fiskars who makes sewing tools. They just wanted they were putting together a design team, so a group of people that use their products, they could put some of the content on their website. I just saw it. I thought, well, I haven't got a green card yet, but I know it's like happening soon. I'm just going to apply and see what happens, and maybe I'll have to say no because I don't have a green card. I won't be able to work. And literally the same day the green card arrived in the mail, they asked me if I wanted to do some work for them, and I was able to say yes because it was just easy then. And actually, one of the you had to submit some photos of projects that you had done, and one of the photos that I submitted was that picture that you're talking about, that when the preschool teacher left, I did that felt picture. So that was one of the pictures that I submitted as an example of my work. So the timing was great. And that was probably now, I want to say 9 years ago. And my job with them has evolved over the years. I've done had several different roles with them. And as I've gone along, I've worked with other companies too, but they're my main people that I work for.
So, okay, here's what I have to say about this, you guys. If you watch my show, if you've followed me for a while, you know I'm a huge believer in divine timing. I'm a huge believer in you get the essence of what you're looking for. And it's been so fun journeying with Emma over these past few years. And we run together regularly, and we talk about what's going on in our lives and in our jobs. And it's been so cool to watch my friend who, like, right, if this is my client, right, I'm pointing out this stuff all the time, like, you see, you wanted this and here it is, you see. But when it's your friend and you're just chatting, sometimes we don't point that stuff out. And it's been so cool over the years to be like, looking back now, hindsight, and go, whoa, can you now see how pivotal that moment was? Because I remember for years leading up to that, part of the reason why Emma was crafting was because she needed an outlet and couldn't get a job, right? You wanted a job at that time, like I want to say real job. Working for Fiskars is a real job, but it's sort of the best of both worlds, right? You're able to be a crafter, making projects, pretty much whatever. I mean, there's some sort of parameters, I'm guessing, but pretty much you get to be creative. Yeah. And
it definitely, after all these years, still fulfills my creative need. I don't have to go and do my own projects for my own personal need anymore. That's enough. But
what I think is, except you have another side project happening, which I want to talk about in just a minute. But I just think, you guys, there's so much I could have learned from Emma if I would have been wise enough to pay attention at the time. I feel like I took the really hard way and you took the really easy way. And that's not even fair, right? Emma had a child with heart defects and a husband who was traveling all the time. It's not fair to say it was easy. But I made it really hard on myself. And Emma, you made it so easy on yourself. Just sort of all the time, Emma would say things like, well, I don't know. I'll just see. I remember when this Fiskars thing happened, that would have been my dream thing, to be able to stay home, use my gifts and talents, get paid, not have to worry about running after clients. And Emma was one day, you're not going to believe it. I got a proper job. I know my English accent is bad. So I guess all I want to say to that is it's taken me a long time to recognize that there's teachers everywhere in your life. And Emma, you've been such a teacher to me. Now she's a lot more deliberate because she'll remind me, hey, let go of that thing. It's going to happen. Just let's see what happens. Don't be attached. But yeah, I'm grateful to that.
Oh, thanks, Carrie.
And I want to talk about how so your job with Fiskars is still fulfilling your role, your need to be a maker. But in the past year or so, there's been something else that's been sort of tapping itself on your shoulder. Wait, I have to stop you guys and tell you one thing about Emma, because I forgot about this.
And now I'm worried.
No, it's that phrase, tapping on the shoulder.
Oh.
So I was at Emma's house, I don't know how many years ago, and I was like in that anxious, that place in my life where I was like, had this proving energy, this need to be something important and like make something. And I really wanted to write a book, and not just any book, right? I wanted to write like the most amazing book on the planet and have be like an instant New York Times bestseller. And I had this idea for I can't even remember what the book is now, but I was at Emma's house. It was her new house. I was sitting on her front porch, and she had this like little swing out there or something. And we were just sitting, chatting, catching up. And I was telling her about, I'm writing a book, blah, blah, blah. But there's this other book that keeps whispering itself in my ear. It wants to tap itself it's tapping on my shoulder. And you gave me some of the best advice I've ever gotten. And you said, well, then write that one. It sounds like that's the one that wants to be written. Write that. And so I did. And I think if you hadn't said that to me, I don't think Run Yourself Happy would even exist.
Aww. Well, I think it's so easy to see it when you're removed from the situation. That was obvious that was the one that you really wanted to write.
Yep. Well, that's why we hire coaches, people. So Emma, you were my coach and you didn't even know it. Okay, let's talk about what you've got going on now, because I am super excited about this, because it is all of the things that you've done so far. I don't think you've thought of as entrepreneurial. You've thought of as like you sort of stumbled into them and, oh, look at that, I'm making money. Oh, look at that. Like someone wants to pay me for this. But you have ventured into the world of Amazon selling and the world of, I guess you would call it Instagram microblogging. Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So Emma, you can follow her on Instagram. I'm putting this link in the show notes, but in the Making DIY. But can you tell us how that evolved?
It's just something that came to me. I just saw on Amazon I'm selling, I have like a really tiny little craft. It's not even empire.
It will be someday.
I've got like 3 products, but I slowly hope to get more. But basically I just wanted to sign in. I don't know if this was deliberate thought process, but I guess I wanted to enable people to make things with their hands, do things. We spend a lot of time watching TV or shopping or like things that don't really get us in tune with our minds and bodies. Mm-hmm. And I just know that when I'm making something, that is my happy place. Like everything else just falls away. I'm actually making something. I'm thinking about what I'm doing. And I wanted to enable people to have that similar sort of experience. So I decided to start selling a few craft products on Amazon. And it's going well. I want to get bigger. I'm not sure how to do that yet, but I'm also taking my advice and not kind of stressing about it, that I know it will come eventually. But yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I love this part so much because I remember one day on a run, Emma's like, I'm going to be an Amazon seller. And I was like, how do you do that? And, I live in this world, right, where there's $1,000 training for everything. Like, oh, you want to know how to do that? Hire this person. Or there's somebody who sells a very specific niche. This is how you do this thing. And if you don't take my training, you're not going to be successful. Right. Lots of us who are in the coaching industry know this. And here was this friend of mine who's like, yeah, I'm just sort of figuring it out. I'm watched a few tutorials. I found a blog that kind of tells you how to do everything. And I mean, is it fair to say you stumbled your way through?
I definitely stumbled my way through. So last year was like my test run. I bought a certain amount of product and I made a little bit of money from selling it. But I figured that, that really taught me the experience of making sure that I have inventory and shipping costs and these sort of things that you don't think about. But instead of paying somebody to do it, I kind of made a couple of $100 doing it myself and learning, the hard way probably. But yeah, I just definitely stumbled my way through it.
I don't think that's learning the hard way. What I've come to realize after how many years I've been in this industry is that I paid a lot of money in trainings to avoid mistakes that everybody has to make. So like I was trying to shortcut. I was trying to, take somebody's training so that I wouldn't make those mistakes, or I wouldn't have to take all the steps. But what I've learned is that you have to take those steps anyways. Right. That's just part of it. Yeah. So I've admired the way Emma has been on this whole journey, because exactly her demeanor in this interview is how she is all the time. Like, yeah, I'm going to figure it out. It's going to be okay. And I just, yeah, I mean, you guys, she had 2 little kids, one with a heart condition, no family, and husband who was gone all the time, and was like together and doing a craft blog. I'm sure falling apart privately from time to time, but yeah. I've just always admired that. You have like a go with the flow attitude.
I've definitely had to learn that. I'm not sure that I did before kids and before hospital visits and surgeries, but I did realize, I think after Tegan was born and diagnosed, after that, I thought, well, anything's actually possible. Like anything good or anything bad can actually happen. And we don't really have a lot of control over some of those things. So I am a bit of a control freak, not as much as you are.
What?
But I do like to be in control, but I definitely had to relinquish a lot of it to the universe. And I guess I'm more at peace with that than I thought, that it's okay to, apply for a job hoping that you'll get the green card in time, and sure enough you do, and it works out all right, and then you get some amazing opportunities. And this Amazon thing, I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm definitely enjoying learning the process, and I've definitely learned some things on the way. But part of it is just, I don't know, well, actually I do know, it's doing something that you really like, and you don't even feel like it's a waste of time, even if you don't make any money from it. As long as you're enjoying it, and then that's like free entertainment.
And the secret, I mean, this is the thing that I think this is why I wanted to have Emma on, you guys. And then I'm looking at the time, and we probably need to skedaddle soon, is what you just said about as long as you're enjoying it while you're doing it, like it's not wasted. It's something good will come from it. There's a whole industry around that. Like there's right. People paying thousands of dollars to go to trainings to learn how to be in that place more often. It's what I spend a lot of time with my clients helping right. them do, right? Is let go of our attachment and enjoy the process, right? Right. Recognize that it's, process, not product. And
absolutely.
But I have watched you be so unattached for so long, and have miracle after miracle after what I consider miracle after miracle after miracle. I'm brilliant at pointing out the most tiniest little miracles. My phone's going to ring now. I forgot to turn it off. All right, Emma. So one of the questions that I ask and I think we've sort of been having this conversation, but on this show, I usually ask people to give us their entrepreneurial journey, which, if I can recap yours, we didn't even talk about the Etsy shop. She had an Etsy shop for like a hot minute. But it was from being a crafty mom to getting paid to be a crafty mom, right? To being a blogger, to getting paid to be crafty. And she's super talented. She's modest. Like, Emma, I was just looking at her Instagram and I was like, did you do any sort of training for this? Because there's people who charge a lot of money to teach people how to make their Instagram look like this. She's like, oh no, I just, So you do have a knack, right? There's a reason.
You know what? I don't think so. I think it's just the difference between doing it or not doing it. Honestly, I mean, that's what I think. You have to be deliberate. You have to, it doesn't come naturally to me. Like the Instagram, I was trying to make it look really nice in the best way that I knew how, but mostly I just did it.
Okay, fair enough. I'll give you that because, right, there is no try, only do or do not. But I've learned we do ourselves and others a disservice when we don't claim our own gifts, right? You have a gift of being a maker. You've become a great maker through practice and through doing it, right? Just like I have a gift of being a runner, right? But I can become a great runner if I run more often and run a little harder. I think I've learned over the years to not discount our gifts. Like the reason why making stuff feels amazing is because it's one of your gifts, because it's literally what you're meant to do, right? Which seems weird to think like one of the things I'm meant to do on this planet is be a crafter. Yeah. Well, it sounds weird to me.
It does sound weird to me too.
And yet it's led to so many of the things that you're doing, and it's kept you in the country. It helps feed your family.
Well, it's definitely a job that fits around my family now. You know, without any family support here, and with a child who does need a lot of appointments weekly or monthly, that it definitely is a job that fits around our lifestyle.
And this is something that you didn't know you were looking for.
Yeah.
But hindsight, because I remember this conversation, hindsight, you recognize, oh, I need this. I can't actually do a 9 to 5.
Right.
It's never going to work for my family. I would have to quit.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't work.
Okay. So let's wrap up here. And I just wanted to ask, the question I started to ask earlier was, what is the conversation that you think entrepreneurs, people like me, you know, you've been on the journey with me. What, if you have one piece of advice for us, what is it?
I don't know. Let me think. I think it's not pushing things, to trust the process, that it will come, it will happen. I was telling you the other day that when I make something now, so with my work, that I'll have to make an item, a project. My favorite thing to do now is to line up all my really bad, like the first draft. The second one that I make is slightly better. The third one, oh, it's looking a bit better, but it's not quite there. And I have learned to trust this whole process of making something. You go through all these ugly ones and you get something great at the end. And I literally line them up on my desk as I go along so that I can see, like, totally visually the whole process of going from something like really scrappy and ugly and falling off and, you know, whatever it is. And that usually is, I know for my kids, that's where they stop.
Yep.
They stop after the first draft that they've made something, and they're despondent. They, you know, it's like all of us. It's the first time you make a meal. It's not that great. You don't make it again. But I have learned to just trust the process. Do it the first time. The second one will be a bit better. The third one will be a bit better. Get to the end one, and you look back and go, oh yeah, they were all there for a reason. They're as beneficial as the very last one that I made, because I wouldn't have got there without it.
So now my question is, how do you know when the last one is the last one? I'm guessing a deadline might have something to do.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just good enough. It's more of a feeling, I think. You just know. It feels right. It just feels right, I think.
Like satisfied?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much, just because I think it's what a lot of us are missing, right? We're missing that ability to be satisfied, to look at a project, to look at your body in the mirror, to look at the draft of that book or whatever it is that you're working on and go, you know what? I'm proud of this. I'm satisfied with this. It's good enough. And can I look back at all the drafts? Can I look back at, you know, I don't know, the pictures of my weight loss journey or whatever it is that the scenario with you. I really love that. I love that about you.
Oh, thanks, Carrie.
All right, we should probably wrap up. So what I want you guys to do is, if you are on Instagram, follow she's Emma Jeffery, but you don't need to follow her personal site unless you're curious about old pictures of her kids. But in the Making DIY, which you'll see the link in the show notes, but there's an underscore between each of the words. Cool products. Even if you've never crafted before, especially what you've got going on right now. She has really simple things. Like even I look at her Instagram and be like, I think I could do that. Like that. And you offer just enough. What I like about your Instagram right now is there's just enough that it's not like, here's this project that you can totally Pinterest fail at, right? It's just enough inspiration to like wet your whistle and get you going. So Emma Jeffery, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Carrie. Thanks for having me.
It was so fun. I'm going to do more podcasts from my living room, I think
you should.
From now on. We're sitting in front of the window here. There's a nice breeze. Yeah, looking at my neighbors. All right, Emma, thanks for being here. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and we will see you next time on The Carrie Roldan Show.